It's Christmas Eve. The weather is cold and biting.
Bob Cratchit sits working at his desk.
His hands are shivering. They can barely move.
The sound of footsteps on the hard floor get louder
as Cratchit's master draws near.
Tight-fisted, sharp as flint, pointed nose and jagged chin, eyes blood red and thin lips blue. Look out all, here comes Scrooge.
Bah, humbug.
Scrooge enters his workhouse.
And ignoring Bob's shivers, he sits at his desk.
Before he has time to dip his quill in ink,
the door bursts open with such happy force.
He nearly knocks poor Bob off his chair.
Merry Christmas, Uncle! It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, Fred.
Bah, humbug.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle.
You don't mean that, I'm sure.
I do, if I had my way.
Every fool who goes about with Merry Christmas on their lips
Should be boiled in his own pudding.
Uncle, you keep Christmas in your own way.
Let me keep it in mine.
Keep it?
But you don't keep it.
Good afternoon.
Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Merry Christmas, Bob. Merry Christmas, sir.
That night, Scrooge settles down in his chair in a small supper by a small fire.
A flicker of flame casting shadows across his jagged beach. His lips barely moved as he snapped up his soup.
A clanking noise from the basement.
Bah, humbug! The noise grows as though it comes from the very depths. Scrooge becomes desperately unsure, trying to convince himself that there's nothing untoward.
His eyes dart around the room, seeking to source the sound. The noise becomes deafening until the ghost of Jacob Rudd bursts through the floor.
Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Jacob Marley.
A part of him.
Impossible. Marley's been long dead for 7 years at least. I don't believe you.
You're probably just a bad dream brought by something I've eaten, an undigested bit of beef.
A crumb of cheese.
There was no mistake, Ebenezer.
My existence in the next world is doomed to walk the night for the foul crimes done in my days in this one.
I am sent here to warn my long-lost business partner that he too is doomed to the same fate.
Humbug.
I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never roved beyond our counting house. Mark me.
In life, my spirit never roved beyond our money changing hole and weary journeys lie before me.
This is your fate, not mine. Do you hear me? Not mine.
Ebenezer,
Look at me!
is this what you really want?
You cannot wish this upon yourself. You still yet have a chance to avoid this path.
I do.
3 more from the next world will visit you tonight.
On the strike of the bell each hour.
I beg your pardon.
Our time here is at an end. Change your ways, Ebenezer.
Jacob.
Change your ways.
Scrooge tried to say humbug, but stopped at the first syllable, and being from the emotion he had undergone.
All the fatigues of the day.
Or his glimpse of the invisible world. Or the conversation of the ghost.
He went straight to bed without undressing and fell asleep in an instant. When Scrooge awoke, the church clock told a deep, dull, hollow, and melancholy 1. Light flashed in the room, startling Scrooge, and the curtains of his bed were drawn aside by a strange figure, like a child. He bit his pale, trembling lip and gulped.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past. As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood in the busy thoroughfares of the city. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here too it was Christmas.
The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it. The beginnings of a smile invaded the corner of his mouth.
Knew it? I was an apprentice here. They went in. A bright, jolly gentleman sat behind a high desk with a great beam on his face. His warmth seemed to fill the entire room, and indeed his size. In fact, if he'd been 2 inches taller, he must have hit his head against the ceiling. Scrooge cried in great excitement.
What is physics? Is alive again?
A living, moving picture of Scrooge's former self came briskly in.
Yo-ho there, Ebenezer! Yo-ho, my boys! No more work tonight. It's Christmas Eve. Clear away, my lad, and let's have lots of room here.
It was done in a minute. The warehouse was as snug and warm and dry as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. Light filled it from all corners as if illuming a ballroom.
In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast smile. In they all came, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow.
And away they all went at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again. Round and round and round until they had lost all sense of their feet on the ground. They danced for themselves, they danced for each other, they danced for the spirit of Christmas.
When the clock struck 11, this ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig, shaking hands with every person as he or she went out, wished him or her a Merry Christmas.
A small matter, Ebenezer. To make these silly folks so full of gratitude, you have spent but a few pounds of their money. 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that they deserve this praise?
The power of Fezziwig lies not in his money, but in his words and looks, in things impossible to add and count. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune.
And all chagrined Scrooge, and he turned his face away.
Remove me from this place, haunt me no longer.
As he struggled with the sight he just witnessed, he was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness. He sank away from this memory and into the warm embrace of his bed.
Where the blasted are they? Back in the blink of an eye on my foot. Relax, Mother. Everything smells incredible. See, here's Father now.
In came Bob, his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, Tim following bravely at his side, for Tim was not a well child.
How was he? Good as God. He told me coming home from church that he hoped people saw him because he was different to them, and it would be good for them to remember him, at least at Christmas. The spirits feel one another, no burdens we bear.
Hissing hot in his hands, Bob winced a little when he lifted the gravy jug. The potatoes were mashed with incredible vigour by Master Peter, a finger dipped in the applesauce and sweetened by the sour taste made Miss Belinda's face do acrobatic. Martha dusted the hot plates. Bob took Tiny Tim beside him in the tiny corner of the table. The 2 young Cratchits set chairs for everyone, not forgetting themselves, and crammed food in their mouths.
Hooks and shrieks were thrown into the air, filling it with spirited joy, the impatience of Goose evident as fists were banged on the table. At last, the dishes were set on, and grace was said. It was succeeded by a breathless pause as Mrs. Cratchit prepared to plunge the carving knife into the breast, and when the long-expected
Gush of stuffing issued forth, one murmur of delight arose all around the board. And even Tiny Tim, excited by the 2 young Cratchits, beat on the table with the handle of their knives and feebly cried,
hurrah! And now for the moment that we've been waiting for. Mrs. Cratchit left the room to bring up the pudding and take it in.
She entered, smiling proudly with the Christmas pudding, blazing in half of a quarter of ignited brandy and decked with a sprig of Christmas holly.
Despite the impatience and salivation by all around the table, there was a short pause, a reverence even, if you will, by all shared a holy moment, before devouring every last mouthful and crumb with gleeful gluttony.
At last the dinner was done. The cloth was cleared, the fire was made up, and the Cratchit family drew around the hearth. And the chestnuts on the fire sparked and crackled. They were happy, pleased, and grateful with one another, contented with time. And when they faded and looked happier yet, in the bright sprinklings of the spirits' torch at parting, Scrooge looked at them, especially at Tiny Tim, until the last.
Spirit, what is to become of that child?
What is it to you?
I should very much like to know. There's something about him.
Are you sizing him up for one of your workhouses? Or perhaps you do well to clean your chimneys?
Please.
May I remind you to the words uttered to those who ask for a little charity for the children in their care? I believe it was, are there no workhouses, are there no prisons? And if that's not up to their sensibilities, let them die. If these shadows remain unaltered, Ebenezer, that child will die.
Scrooge looked about him for the ghost and saw it no more. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground towards him.
Spirit of things to come, I fear you more than any spectre I've seen. Will you not speak to me?
It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed out straight before them.
Lead on, spirit, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me. I know. Lead on, spirit.
It scarcely seemed to enter the city. The city rather seemed to spring up about them, without a great heart of it amongst the merchants.
The spirit stopped beside a little knot of influences. Observing that the hand was pointed to them, Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk.
I don't know much about either way. I only know he's dead.
Die.
Last night, I believe.
What's he done with his money?
I don't know. Buried with it for all I know. Hasn't left it to me, that's for sure.
Like walking between dream and wake, the scene changed, and now Scrooge almost touched upon a bare, uncurtained bed. A pale light, rising in the outer air, cast its light down, and on the bed, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of an unknown man.
I am not sure I know this man, but surely his fate must be cruel and unkind. What shall this mean? Wherefore?
The spirit brought forth a graveyard and pointed down on one. Dead weeds and overgrown thorns covered the grave. He, following the finger, trembling as he read it, his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Am I that man who lay upon the bed? No, spirit. Oh, no, no. Spirit, help me. I am not the man I was. I am not the man I must have been. Why? Why show me this if I am past all hope? My fate. I have to be able to change my fate.
The spirit hung in the air, as still as though it thought.
Spirit, let me see some tenderness connected to this death, or this dark image will forever be present to me.
The ghost conducted him to poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and children seated around the fire. Something had changed. A much different presence had come and touched the lives of these brave souls. And it was quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner and sat up looking at Peter, who had a book before him. Mrs. Cratchit and her daughters were engaged in needlework, but surely they were quiet.
Bloody thing. The colour hurts my eyes. Makes them weak by candlelight. And I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home for the world. It must be nearly time.
Pass it rather. I think he walked a little slower these past few evenings.
I've known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder very fast indeed. But he was very light to carry. And his father loved him so that it was no trouble. No trouble. And there's your father at the door.
She hurried out to meet him, and they came in together. Then the two little Cratchits got upon their knees and laid, each child a cheek upon his face, as if they could take the grief that was etched upon his face away from him. Oh, how strong our little children can be.
Bob was very cheerful with them. He spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table and praised all who were involved.
Went today then, love? Yes, my dear. Such green face, such life. It's as if the plants and trees burst forth as soon as they came to greet him. I promised him that I'll walk there on Sunday with him.
boy, my sweet little boy.
Though this be tenderness, indeed it is not the solace I sought. I see now that it is not my fate that matters. I fear death not. Let me rot away in my dank hole, but do not let the shadow remain. I will do what I must. I will honour Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. With all my heart, if it be in my power, this child shall live.
Holding up his hands in one last prayer, to have fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost.
Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own, the room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the time before him was his own, to make amends in. Running to the window, he opened it and stuck out his head. No fog, no mist, no night. Just clear, bright, sterling, golden day.
You shoe down there. What's today? What's today, my fine young fellow?
It's Christmas Day!
It's Christmas Day, I haven't missed it. Hello, my fine young fellow.
Hello!
Do you know the butcher shop at the corner?
I sure hope I do.
A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little turkey, the big one.
What? The one as big as me is hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it.
And if you don't mind me saying, sir, I'm not sure you have the appetite for it.
Ha! Hilarious boy. No, I'm in earnest. Go and buy it and tell them to send it to the Cratchits. Get them to throw in a pound sausage as well whilst they're at it. Bring me word it's done in 10 minutes and I'll give you a shilling. Come back in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown.
The boy was off like a shot. Scrooge dressed himself all in his best and at last got out into the streets. The people were by this time pouring forth as he had seen them with the ghost of Christmas present.
Scrooge greeted everyone with a delightful smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant. In a word that 3 or 4 good-humoured people said,
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. And a Merry Christmas to each and every one of you.
He was early at the office the next morning. He could only be there first to catch the Cratchit.
The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. Bob was for 18 minutes and a half behind his time.
Bob's hat was off before he opened the door. He was on the store in the jiffy, driving away with his pen, as if he was trying to overtake 9 o'clock. His hair was burrowed so low as if he was trying to absorb himself in the desk, hoping that the act would make him more invisible to Scrooge's cold gaze.
Was I not clear in my instruction, Mr. Cratchit, that when I gave you permission at my expense for you to have Christmas Day off, you would in fact arrive early the day after, and certainly, most certainly, not a minute late?
I'm very sorry, sir. I'm behind my time. I must have forgot myself this morning by indulging in the leftover atmosphere from yesterday.
Behind your time, are you? Indulging, you say? Yes, I think that may well be. Step this way, if you please.
Please, sir. It is just one day of the year. I work hard here, sir. I don't think I go above my station, and if need be, I will come in early for the rest of the week. But please, by the spirit of Christmas, sir, please have a heart.
Now I tell you what, Mr. Cratchit, I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. It is my opinion that the position has become no longer tenable, and therefore it is with pleasure that I'm about to raise your salary.
You cannot fire me, sir. I won't allow it. Wait, what?
Bob trembled. Scrooge looked amused as a wide smile spread across his face. Bob thought he had gone mad. Or was he drunk?
Merry Christmas, Phil. A Merry Christmas than I've ever given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and make sure that you and your family want for nothing.
Now, shall we have some Christmas punch? I'd rather take it to the staff.
Scrooge is better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more.
And to Tiny Tim, who did not die.
He was a second father. He became a good friend, a good master, and a good man.
Some people laughed to see the change in him,
But his own heart laughed.
and that was quite enough for him. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well. May that be truly said of us and all of us.
So, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us, everyone.
Warm-hearted, soft and kind, helpful friend and joy to find, gentle eyes and great big ring, loud applause to spring begins. From